TV drama, and I'm going to now introduce our two speakers, and we're going to be talking about their new production, Furia, and we're going to follow that by talking about the landscape for international co-productions. We're going to be particularly looking at the opportunities that co-productions now offer the market, what kind of shows can be made now that could have never been made before, and we're also going to be talking about some of the limitations of trying to make such shows. So I'll pass you over now to our two speakers who will introduce themselves.
Hello everybody, thanks for the introduction, Nick, and thanks for hosting us. My name is Katarina Kremling. I work as a commissioning editor for international co-productions at ZDF, and in that position I was the commissioning editor of Furia.
Yeah, my name is Michael Polle. I'm a producer at Berlin-based X-Film Creative Pool. Can you guys hear me? It's because good. We are a production company founded 25 years ago by the writers and directors Tom Tikva, Wolfgang Becker, Dani Levy, and the producer Stefan Arndt. So actually the company was founded to produce feature films. And 11 years ago I came into the company as a head of television. So I'm running the TV department of this company. We produced several German TV series. We produced a show called Babylon Berlin. And now Furia is our first international co-production together with a show called Queen's Gambit, which already won an international Emmy, which was co-produced also by our team here in Berlin.
Okay, great. So let's show a clip of Furia and then we'll get into it.
I'm like you, afraid of the future. Because of the past.
Hope in the face of difficulty.
This has been a decade like no other. A world filled with hope for better days. A world connected and improving like never before. Instead, it came apart. People are killed because they want our future. They should know, but due to heroes working in silence, they will never get it.
Det var noen høyt oppe I etasjene der på Grønland som ringte meg og sa at jeg skulle godta den overføringen din. Du en slags supersnut.
Dyrka kulturen vår og skapa en sunn og motstandsdyktig identitet som vi kan være stolt av her I bygda. Hvis noen av dere kødda med da flyktningemottak eller folk som knyttet til det en gang til.
Les nå det du skriver, mørkt og jævlig.
We want to do big things. Things no one can imagine. To change the world.
We've infiltrated a right-wing cell in Norway. One of the leaders is German.
Yeah, then I need all intel you've got.
Du ska fora det raserier där. Vi har en gnist till flammen.
Die Terroristen, das sind keine Islamisten, das ist eine rechtsextremistische Terrorzelle.
Fantastic. So to start with, could you just explain the appeal of the project both to X-Film and ZDF International, please?
Well, I found this project. It's a co-production with our Norwegian partners, Monster Scripted, and they presented this project at Berlinale 2018 in here at the Berlinale Film Festival. It's a co-production market, and they had the idea for a show about, as you hopefully have seen, about right-wing terrorism who comes from the northern part of Norway to the center of Europe, which was in the Norwegian perspective Berlin. So for me it was quite interesting. I was looking for a project like this for more than 3 or 4 years. So a real co-production with a very important topic which actually affects not only Europe, but I think this topic is out there all over the world. So, and the idea was always to set up a real co-production to bring Norwegian and German creatives together, actors, directors, writers, and to really do a project which affects both countries, but also really had an international appeal. So that was a quite fast pitch, and I have to say, we had our first meeting the next day after the pitch, and we were, we started the development 3 weeks afterwards. So it was a very fast collaboration, and it was always our plan to bring in ZDF. So then I talked to these guys, and maybe Katharina can say something about it.
Yeah, we first noticed the project as well at the Berlinale, and it immediately got our attention. And right-wing, because of Germany's dark history, right-wing terrorism will always be an important topic. And we all witnessed in the last couple of years that the rise of right-wing parties and populists became bigger and bigger, and it's for us as a public broadcaster, it's our duty to address such topics and to tell important stories there. And so it was in the package and the creatives, it was kind of a no-brainer.
Sure. So do you think that's essential for a European co-production to have that kind of core idea, that premise that is has a resonance everywhere, or is that just particularly right for this project?
I would say there is no rule to set up a co-production. For me, it was really important to set up a co-production which is a creative co-production, not a financial co-production. Just because we are as a company, we are creative driven. The company is called X-Film, a creative pool, and there's a reason for this name. So when Yermont wrote this storyline for right-wing terrorism, which comes to Berlin, this was something where I had the feeling it could be a good partnership, right? There are so many co-productions out there with different ideas and approaches, and it's good. But for us, it is important when we set up a co-production in television. We also did feature film co-productions with a different approach. But when we're doing it in television, like Furia, we really would like to be involved in the system. So,
by system, you mean the...
I mean system and the whole process, okay. In the process of development, casting and everything, so really put the things together.
And this was a great story because even though it starts in Norway, it very soon moves to Berlin, and then it has a sort of more global resonance.
Absolutely, it starts in Berlin. We introduce some characters over there, and when we come to Germany, the perspective changed a little bit. We are 4 weeks in front of the German election, and so the danger for Germany, but based on this idea, doing something in Germany can change Europe, was always the kind of leading idea for the whole project.
Yeah, especially with Furia, the international co-production it's an international story at its core. So to do this project as an international co-production, it came naturally. But for us, it's not mandatory to have projects that are told this way, or that we need to have a journey from Norway to Berlin or Germany. But it always depends on the story and the project.
Sure. Yeah. So it was right for this project. And just stepping back a bit, so could you explain a bit how you worked with Monster, how that partnership between you and them was in reality?
Well, when we first met, it was mainly about the overall idea from Yamon's side. But it was also clear that he wanted to have German influence. So we found a writer from Germany, Henna Schulte-Holtei, who immediately became part of the writers' room, which was already set up in Norway. And then we started to talk, and we started to develop the storyline further on, and throughout this process also ZDF came on board, and we talked a lot about financing during this period. And later on, it was clear that we wanted to also have a German director for this show, which on the bottom line was Lars Kraume. But it was also a question who would be the first director, and the Norwegians came up with Magnus Mertens, who did a lot of work in the US before. So we really started to set up a collaboration. So the head of departments were also not the DPs, for the Norwegian part, the first 3 episodes. The DP came from Australia, but for example, production design, costume, they are all Germans. So it was a real idea of bringing the people together. And the idea, for example, for the German HODs came out of the idea that this show starts in Norway with 3 episodes, but the other 5 episodes are here in Germany. So bringing all this influence together.
So it would be too simplistic to say that the Norwegians did the Norwegian bit and the Germans did the German bit.
Yeah, it was an ongoing collaboration, and on the bottom line there was this small pandemic which happened throughout the period of shoot, which was also something to solve.
Yeah, tell us about that. How did you overcome those challenges as producers?
First of all, we had to find money, just because it was quite clear that we needed money for our Corona protocol, which was very strict. Here in Germany, we postponed the shoot in Norway for quite a while, 3 months. It was originally planned in January, and then we started later. And
so you just put everything on hold for a while, which is always super expensive, right?
Absolutely. And then we greenlighted the Norwegian part. After it was a little bit easier to shoot in Norway, but it was still a question what would happen here in Germany. So we postponed the German part also a little bit, and we had always a break in between both parts, so it was easier to do it. But then we set up the German part, and it was, for us as a company, it was quite important that we did other projects before under the rules of Corona. So we had a lot of experience in shooting during a pandemic, which was quite useful for the shoot of Furia. But on the bottom line, we had the biggest problem really was the travel situation for the Norwegian cast from Norway to Germany, just because the rules changed in an ongoing process nearly every week. So,
bubbles and keeping
absolutely,
people.
But the good thing was here in Germany we used mainly the crew which did Babylon Berlin season 3 before. So there is an ongoing relationship with all these great production people, and they managed it in a way.
And there was a lot of children involved as well, is that right? Did that create issues, or could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think this one has to answer Michael as well, because we had some difficulties with the shooting with the children.
Yeah, we had to reorganize a little bit the last episodes, and when we did the shoot for the last episodes, Magnus came down then and did episode 7 and 8. It was not possible to get permission by the state anymore to shoot with kids in a school which was closed based on Corona. So we had to find some tricks, and we reshot some of the school parts later in Norway when the schools were open back again.
And correct me if I've got this wrong, but are Viaplay involved as well?
Yes, they are our partner in the broadcasting side, but they are a SVOD platform in Scandinavia, and we in the past we always had strong partnerships with Scandinavian companies and broadcasters and channels, and with Viaplay we had another project in the past. One of it was
which one was that?
Shadowplay, which was also a very high production value, and one of the special international co-productions for ZDF. So we knew that we have there a passionate and reliable partner on the side, and yeah.
And obviously this was before they announced they were coming to Germany.
Yes.
Okay,
well,
sure.
now we have still ongoing projects with Viaplay, but we will see in the future if that will continue, because they are looking at in the German territories. So, and it's always the question of the broadcasting rights, and for us the online rights are becoming more and more important. So yeah, we will see.
And while we're on this subject, I understand Keshe have the distribution rights and Lumiere have them in other areas and regions. Did they all come on board early on to get the project off the ground? Could you tell us a bit about what really made it happen, financially and so on?
So Viaplay was on board when Filme stepped in. So they were part of the development of this first episodes before we stepped in. We came in and we brought in ZDF, and then Lumiere came up, and then Keshet came up. Then we received funding by several territories in Norway, German Motion Picture Fund, media support, Medienboard Board Berlin-Brandenburg. So it's a long financing plan, actually.
So it sounds like X-Film helped a lot, get this project off the ground, the fact that you guys have this great reputation. Could you just tell us a bit about, what opportunities you see in TV now with your, which you maybe used to see in film, and how why you're so involved in TV these days with Babylon Berlin and Queen's Gambit and so on?
I think, the opportunities are amazing in television nowadays. And for us as a company, when we set up a project, it's always about what is the best way to set up this project. And actually, in our days, from my perspective, there is no rule anymore. We always take a look in the unique and special projects and try to find the best partners for this project. So it can be a co-production, it can be a deal with a platform for several territories or all territories. We are, based on our history in feature film, we are quite used to this kind of models. And for example, when we financed Babylon Berlin, it's the first co-production between a German pay TV platform and a German public broadcaster. They never did this before. And this idea was inspired by feature film financing. Okay. So I think in our days, and this is quite important for creative people, there is no rule anymore. It's all about a unique and special project and a package, which obviously is give some security for the partners, which was the case on Furia for us, and I think for everybody who was involved. But I think the whole business changed throughout the last 10 years, on both sides, creatively but also financially.
Yeah, and for us as a broadcaster, the advantage of international co-productions is that we invest one euro and get several more euros back on screen production value-wise. So co-productions will become more and more important for us.
Yeah, it seems to me, because often I write about US and UK productions, and there's a big emphasis on the shows that really want to get the big international audiences. There's a increasing pressure to package it with often Hollywood A-listers, Nicole Kidmans, your Hugh Grants, etc. But it seems like the really exciting creative thing about the European market is because you pool your resources, you can make very high quality shows, but you don't have to get these like mega stars, which often can almost constrain the creativity. I just wonder if you could, if that was a true sort of reflection of how you see things.
Well, actually, when it comes to co-productions, it's quite important to say that we do not have so many European stars. So when you set up a co-production like Furia, each partner can take a look about cast and crew and stuff like that, and see and try to find the best people for the project. So it's not so marketing driven compared to international feature films or TV series or stuff like that. And it's also the case if you talk about local language platform projects, for example. If you go more and more international, for example, in feature film business, we still have the situation that a big star is requested and stuff like that. But I think the biggest part of television productions, at least if we are talking about co-productions, are more creative driven than marketing driven, and I think that's the biggest difference to this kind of UK and US package shows.
And the other great thing, it seems, is that because in English language speaking countries, or in fact actually all European countries, there's this really big thirst. People love the Nordic style of shooting, so there's always a hunger for a really great new project from these kind of regions. Obviously, it's interesting because ZDF pioneered this when they got involved with The Killing and The Bridge. And, it seems you have a great sort of, with German finance as well, you can get that nice balance of really talented direction and but also the finance to make high production values. And it's a great alternative to the super ambitious UK, US, English language style mega productions, which are, not really where this TV revolution came from. That was always almost like a Hollywood thing.
Totally agree. We have great talent in Europe all over, and I think we don't have to hide from the great American shows. And
But I think what is also quite important when it comes to this topic is that this local approach, the uniqueness of local content became more and more important. So you cannot set up a show, for example, in Germany and say it has to look like a US show and it will be a success. I think it's quite important that we learned throughout the last couple of years to find our own voice and language, which on the other side, and I think this is something which was supported by the platforms, which now find an international audience. So people in South America are now used to watch European shows on their platform. Maybe with subtitles. I learned earlier today that on platforms, subtitles became more and more popular compared to the dub business.
But I was just going to say that one super exciting thing about Furia, when I watched it, is that you're seeing all the classic landscape that you love from Nordic shows, yet it's done in this completely different way. It's not Nordic noir, there's not shades, it's all super bright and invigorating, because you have this exciting director who's been working in the US, but he's done most of his career in the Nordics, is that right? Could you tell us a bit about his work?
I just want to say that the appeal also for us is or the idea, because we will air the show on Sunday at our Sunday and Monday, and Sunday is one of our slots for that's primarily with Scandinavian crime, and so we have for the audience the look first, but then the series takes you to a whole different journey from what the audience is used to.
And to add something, it was always the idea of Jarmund, the showrunner, that he didn't want to make another Scandi-noir kind of thing. Everything is dark and stuff like that. So when Magnus came in, it was also quite important for him, and he set the tone and everything for the show to have this brightness. But when we come later, as you have seen in the trailer, to Berlin, it's getting darker and darker all the time. So, and actually the showdown is at night, so it's a travel.
And so Magnus Martins has done some massive US shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Walking Dead. And I was just interested, has he done some Nordic shows that we might be familiar with, or films before?
Actually, he produced, or he did a film with one of the Norwegian executive producers, Håkon Breiseth, who was involved from the beginning in this project and who also presented it at the Berlinale. So he knows Magnus, and he brought him in. But most of the time, Magnus worked in the US.
Okay, and the other fascinating thing about this show is that the writer did Mammal, which was a really big breakout hit for Norway. I think it's been remade into like so many different versions. It was really quite a sensation. So what did how did he set up his writer's room, and did he? Could you tell us a bit about the script development? I understand there's some early drafts at Viaplay, and you said there's some quite interesting stuff with that.
No, as I said, they had 2 scripts ready, and they had an idea for the overall storyline. And for this, they already had a writer's room. So when we stepped in from the German side, just because in episode 4, obviously, the whole story comes to Germany, we were involved in the development process also for 1 and 2, but also in the ongoing process for the other episodes. And that was the reason why we brought in also a German writer to the room. And what was really important for all of us was also that we had a lot of experts for this topic in both Norway and Germany. So we had meetings with right-wing terrorism experts, police people, lawyers, a lot of journalists actually, who were very familiar with this topic of right-wing terrorism, and all these informations from both sides came into the room to adjust the storyline in an ongoing process.
Yeah, and for us it was because it's such a delicate topic, and was very important for us that we need to do thorough research, and I think the writing team and the producers did an incredible job on that, and that's the reason why the story feels so authentic, and you really feel that on the screen. That what kind of research was made there.
Was it like a American-style writer's room? Did it work in that way, or was it more individuals working on their own and then sort of...
Can you explain the American writer's room, what you mean?
Well, you know, like 5 or 6 writers locked in a room for so many months, you know, beating out story beats and arcs, and then getting all that. You know, I understand but often there isn't the same budgets available in Europe to put what they put into it in America.
But it was a kind of middle case scenario. So we had weeks of work, and then the writers worked at home, and then we had meetings again, also with the broadcasters. So it was an ongoing process in a way. But not in an American way. What I learned now that you lock the door for months, and
it's David Chase especially apparently.
And maybe bring in some food, you know, bread and water. No, that was not the case.
So you don't. So this is quite interesting. They don't use that classic model of writers around a room for weeks together.
They did it for the first thing, and we also did it for a period afterwards. But there were also pauses in between for the real writers' room, but you know, to sit together. But they worked on the drafts and stuff like that.
Okay, and this is a slightly left of centre question, but the Maman creator, you know, has he been doing lots of TV work since, or has he been working in film, or are there the opportunities for him as a Nordic writer?
Actually, he did another series parallel to the development of Furia, which was out in Norway, I guess last year, and I have to say I forgot the name. It is not out in Germany, and then he did Furia, and I know that he's working on other stuff right now.
Okay, well, why don't we just have a quick break from us talking and see if the audience has any questions, and then we'll get back to you guys again. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
I work in the public broadcast of the Balearic Islands in Spain, and we're starting to perform co-production like in the region. What kind of rights do you always hold in this kind of a scenario when you work with an OTT or when you work with another platform? As a public broadcaster, what's your limit? What's your red line? This is my rights, please don't take it.
Well, of course, as a German public broadcaster, we need the German broadcasting rights, and also the online rights, because we do also at ZDF acquisitions, but there we are very much limited in the SVOD rights. So we want to do more co-productions to increase our program of our ZDF Mediathek. So yeah, these we need them. Well, for the German territory, we need the rights. Yes.
Well, as I said, 2 scripts and a storyline, and a package with Yamund as a showrunner and producers who did great shows before. Like, for example, Håkon did a show called Nobel, which I saw before, which really was pretty good from my perspective. Actually, for us as a company, there is no rule when we step in. In co-production, it really helps you if something is there, or there's a topic where you see that this is so international that you start with a partner, a co-development. On other projects, it can be a pitch, it can be a presentation. Again, there is no rule. We have to understand, and this is always important for us, we have to feel and understand a vision for a project. Just because this vision and the will of a creator or writer to really do this project, this is, for me as a producer, the most important thing.
And we're going to ask more questions at the end, so feel free to come back later on. But so the landscape for international and European co-productions, it seems super exciting in many ways because it allows you to make shows that otherwise, for example, say ZDF local wouldn't make. And could you just tell us a bit about how you feel about the opportunities that these co-productions offer?
As I said earlier, also budget-wise or production value-wise, there we have more options for an international co-productions, but also talent-wise, we were interested in working with everybody who has a great idea or vision for a series, or we do also feature films international international co-productions. Not that much yet, but also want to do more. And all the different kind of input from the talents and producers.
So it's not the market isn't flooded in the sense it's not, you're looking for more strong projects. You're not thinking we've got enough, we can't sell these, that kind of situation.
No, it's actually the opposite, and we do also very often audience research at ZDF, and there we get the message that the audience want more international co-production, actually. So, yeah, the need is there.
And how do you feel about that, Michael?
Well, it's great on one hand, and on the other side, I have to say, as a producer, it becomes more and more complicated in a way. Right now, we have the situation all over Europe that there are so many projects out there which are currently in development or shoot, actually, that it's quite hard to get, for example, teams, to get the right people on board for a project. So the fight for talent become more and more important on every level of a production. And on the other side, I mean, when I came from film school, I was used to work with 5 broadcasters, and this was it. And now in our days, and that's what I said earlier, we are in a situation to really set up the best way for a production, to take some time to find the right people, to bring the right people together so that the project will become hopefully good and successful. So it's in Germany we have to face Fluch und Segen, so it's good and bad in a way. But the good thing is, and I think this is quite important, that throughout the last at least 10 years, the European voice became more and more important in the business of film and television throughout the world. And I think this is really good for all people who are working in this business nowadays.
Yeah, the competition we feel very much at the ZDF, that more players as VOD platforms are rising up, and that's why we also want to go in early in the development stages also, like we did with Furia in the production, and not only when the scripts are already written. So we can put our finger on it, on the best projects that there are early.
So the industry is that competitive that it's good to get in early, because once they become developed, someone else will have them basically in a lot of scenarios.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So do we have any more questions from the audience? Okay. So, go ahead. Thank you.
Well, the story comes always first. Of course, it helps if there is experienced talent on project, but it's not mandatory. But you have to have a vision of it for the partners, potential partners, and production companies, and so that we need there, because we as ZDF we won't be the major partner on projects on international co-productions. So yeah, you have to have a vision, but if you have a great idea, just come to us.
Okay, so this is my last question, and you might think it's a bit childish, but what is your dream? This two-pronged question. Okay, so I'm interested in how much your ambition, can you always, raising the finance for your most ambitious projects, obviously I imagine it'd be very challenging for a European co-production to make Game of Thrones or something like that. And if you could, what would be your ideal co-production vision?
This is quite difficult to answer. As I said, there is no ideal. I think it's quite important to find a project like Furia was, or like Babylon was, where I have the feeling that this is something which is important to tell. And from this point on, at least for me as a producer, I try to do everything to fulfill this vision, and also think about new ways and ways that were never be done before. And if we are able to do it with great partners like we did here on Furia, it's a great experience. I mean, what I said earlier about Corona, it was only possible because a bunch of people understood that this is a difficult situation and we have to stand together. So we had a lot of conversations together where everybody was involved and said, okay, we understand that this is a problem, how can we solve it? And this kind of partnership is, I guess, something special, and this is my dream. It's not about one particular project, it's about a collaboration to fulfill an idea and a vision of a show.
Yeah, for me it's also very difficult to answer that question. But I think that we did an amazing job with Furia. So we have a strong and intense partnership with all the creatives, with Viaplay and the producers, and we are really happy about how it turned out in the end, and we hope that the audience will also see that. And I think I haven't mentioned it before, but we will air Furia in November. So.
Fantastic. Okay, well, that seems like a good point to wrap it up. So thanks very much, Michael and Katarina, and thanks for coming along today.